Okay, so first of all, those of you that are on board with us, welcome. Glad to have you. Those of you that are new, it's your first timers here. Do me a favor, if you are if you're new to here, or if you've never been here before, type it in the chat box. Let me know who you are, just so I can say hello, and where are you coming from. I'd love to know kind of where you're coming to us from, because there's a couple of people in here that I don't recognize. So glad that you're here with us. We do use the chat box a ton. We use the chat box a ton, and if you're comfortable and you have a question, one of the rules that we really focus on in here is if you want to, feel free to use the microphone. Turn the mic on, ask questions. So we really, really want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable to asking questions and talking about whatever we have. So, all right. Ariel, I'm new. You're new. Aussie in concert. Nice. That's cool. All right. Well, what's up? CT4L. That sounds like a great droid name from Star Wars. I'm just saying. From Hotlanta. So beautiful. Good to see you. All right. So let's go ahead and get rolling with our session tonight. Now, lots to cover because we had a pretty interesting day on Friday. There we go, Beantown. Welcome aboard. We had a pretty interesting day on Friday, and so let's take a look at the markets overall. What I want to do tonight is I'm going to go through our, when we do our Sunday night sessions, the idea is that we look at the major markets in general, and I typically look at the equity markets. We look at the energies and metals, and we look at our currencies. If there's something worth trading, one of the things that we talk about is I'm not going to trade something if the market doesn't give me doesn't give me a setup, right? If it's not giving me a setup and something that makes a lot of sense, then I'm not really going to want to trade that. So last week, the first thing we're going to do is talk about the ES on this just huge run up, right? We had a very large run higher. And so when we look at our time frames, I'm going to switch to the 4-hour time frame. Now, why do I switch to the 4-hour time frame? 4-hour time frame is my big picture. And since it's my big picture, it's what's going to tell me, am I a buyer or am I a seller, right? When I'm looking at the big picture is specifically designed to tell me, am I a buyer or am I a seller? Now, in this case, what I'm looking for are swing highs and swing lows. And what I can see is that I have a very clear delineation of swing highs and swing lows. We can see that we have a obviously this swing low in here, but then we put in a new high as we got above this high, and then we drop down into here on the Fed move. We got above this high, we put in a new high, a new low, a new high, a new low. So as we continued to put in higher swing highs and higher swing lows, what we were able to do is to show that there is a strong possibility that we're going to continue to move in that direction in the small time frame, right? So our small time frame is definitely what I would look for. And I would say that right now we are, probably more on a +3, right? On our outlook, because we are moving up so well. We think about it, we want to scale those markets on a +3 to -3 scale, right? And if I think about it like that, I would say that -3 being very bearish, +3 being very bullish, we are strongly bullish. Now, I do want to take a look very quickly at the volume, because the volume is going to tell me a lot. And I'm going to do actually my volume confluence. So when I'm looking at my volume, one of the things that I'm going to pay specific attention to is, what did the volume look like on those up days? A little bit concerned, okay? A little bit concerned in the fact that we had those really high, strong moving days, but our volume was significantly less, right? Our volume was significantly less. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in just a minute, Liz. Our volume significantly less. Matter of fact, when I say significantly, you look at this and you go, oh, it doesn't look like it's that much less. Well, I mean, this is a 1.2 1.2 million, 1.3 million versus up here it was almost 2 million, right? So that's a pretty strong drop in volume. And that is something that's telling. When you have big bullish days with very low volume on an options expiration day, I'll add, right? On an options expiration day. Well, I would agree that dull markets can tend to grind a bit higher. Great question. But what I would say though is I want to see price increase with average or above average volume, right? Yeah, I wouldn't call this a grind. I certainly wouldn't. And so that is something that gives me a little bit of pause for concern. Now, when I go to a smaller time frame and I look at like the hourly chart, and I'm looking at my volume nodes, right? So where was my high volume node on each day? When looking at Friday, the highest volume was at the very end of the day. Now, why would our highest volume been at the very end of the day on Friday? That's our high volume node. Why would our highest volume be at the very end of the day? Somebody type it in the chat box. Hedging for the weekend, and to the futures contracts, closing out of options positions, right? All of that. On a Friday, our volume node was highest at the very, very end of the day. That's really what we're looking at there. Throughout the rest of the week, our volume nodes did actually act a little bit of support on every single day. You did start to see a little bit like that. But I think that it's very telling that our highest volume was at the very, very end of the day, almost as high as the Fed announcement, not quite as high as the Fed announcement. Okay. Now, what about a daily chart? Let's take a look at a daily chart. Let me get rid of these studies here. Okay, looking at the daily chart, one thing that I will state is that right here we have a bit of an area where we had a rally base, very strong drop on a daily time period. Now, this rally base drop on the daily time period is an untouched level. We've not been back into that level as of yet, and we've come into it right now. We did put in a higher swing high. We did get above this swing high on the daily chart, but we are now sitting in what frankly is pretty good supply. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us roll over a bit from here and come back down. So while we said on our smaller time frame we're looking at a +3, hold on a minute because of the fact that we're in a daily area of supply. Okay. Let's see, Sudhir, who is pushing this to highs in the lower time frame? I think the big boys, as they are purchasing against the higher time frame downtrend. They could be. I mean, ultimately, I think what's pushing this up this week was a bit of optimism, right? A little bit of news-based optimism, and I think that some of the original shock of the Russian-Ukraine impact has been felt. Looking at it on a much bigger time frame, like let's go to the SPX for a minute and look at the weekly chart. So when I go to the weekly chart on the SPX, I'm still waiting on this area as my area. I believe that this is a great fair price value area and a really good spot to get in. I am interested, though, remember we talked about the earliest way to get in. The earliest way to get in was getting in after we close above the 8-period exponential moving average. Right? Remember, we use the 20 as simple as a signal to get out, and the 8 as a signal to potentially get back in. And so I do find this pretty interesting that we closed above this 8. Now, by the way, that doesn't always work, right? Sometimes in a precipitous downtrend, you might close above the 8, but it doesn't really continue to move. So we have not put in a higher swing high and a higher low yet in the daily. That's not happened. And so when I look at it, if you think of it like that, what's my weekly trend? What's my weekly trend? Right? Looking at higher swing highs and higher swing lows. So right now, what's kind of interesting is that our weekly trend is down. Oops. What I get for trying to. Weekly trend is down. Daily trend. All right. When I shift over to the daily trend, what is my daily trend? Well, I have a higher high, but do I yet have a higher low? Not really. A little bit, I guess you could call it that. It's a weak uptrend. Would everybody agree to that? I think that's a fair way to say it. A fairly weak uptrend. And what is our hourly trend? Our 4 hour. Our 4 hour trend is strong up. Okay? So now what does this mean? Well, this means that my weekly trend is still down, my daily trend is weekly up, and my 4 hour trend is strongly up. That's the beginning of price changing direction, right? Price will always change direction first on the smaller time frame before it's going to change direction on any of those bigger time frames. So, what would I need to change my weekly trend from down to up? Could have some credit spread opportunities in the near term, 100%, Roberto. But what I need to do to change the weekly trend from down to up is I need to get above this swing high right here, right? Because we had a swing low and then a swing high and then a lower swing low right there. I need to get above this swing high. So as it stands right now, this swing high that exists right there is what's determining my overall trend direction. Now, if you are the most aggressive entry, you can, utilizing just an indicator, say, you know what? Because we closed up above that 8, my rule is pretty simple. If you close above the 8, you can get long the market. If you're below the 20, you should be out of the market on a long-term investor. If you're just looking at it from a very, very simplistic fashion, did we reverse at a quality area of demand on a weekly chart? Nope, we did not. We did not reverse at a strong, high quality weekly demand level. I mean, we reversed at, you know, at this level through here. I guess you could call this demand, but would I call that super high quality demand? Well, not really. We didn't get a strong move away. We got a little retest back into it. We've hit it again and moved away, and then this is the third time in. So it was almost like, okay, we moved up, but is there follow through? And I don't know that there is yet. Does that make sense with everybody? So what it tells me is I'm willing to be long on my small time frame. I'm willing to consider, back to your question, Sudhir, can I go long? Can I go long some stocks that have been beaten down that have strong fundamentals? I think you can. I think it's okay to do that with tight stops. But am I willing to say that our downtrend in the weekly chart is over? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Not willing to do that at all. Now, that's the SPX. You've got to remember, though, that the NASDAQ, if I look at the NASDAQ, so the SPX last week was up. Hold on. Our SPX from the prior week was up about 6.24%. The NDX was up about 8.45%. So the NASDAQ actually was stronger than the S&P last week because we did see a little bit more interest in the tech sector. Yeah, I agree, Liz. I think it's okay with very tight stops. You know, I think about companies that have strong fundamentals that complete a reversal pattern. You know, that's, and I don't have any. I didn't search for individual stocks today because that's not really a setup for today. But I'm saying if you do it, sneak into some of those positions. Sneak into some of those positions. Okay. CRM might be one. Let's take a quick gander at CRM. Yeah, a little bit of a bottoming pattern here. We did get above this swing high. We do have a higher low, and yeah, this could be a good example of that. I think that's a great way to think about it. So if you want to consider, okay, I'm willing to get back into some of these beaten down stocks that have strong fundamentals, I'm okay with that, right? I think that's a great way to think about it when you look at some of those better, higher quality opportunities in stronger positions. All right, but let's look at some trade ideas for tonight. So that's my big picture thought for what it's worth. Yeah, Square, Facebook, those are all ideal candidates. Although Square, I've really enjoyed shorting lately, I got to tell you. Now, when I look at the ES and I see demand level not hit, demand level not hit, demand level not hit, demand level not hit, it gets frustrating to an extent. On our 4-hour chart, we are coming into the daily. It's actually a daily area of supply, and so if we get a pullback off of this level, because we're in that 4-hour demand, certainly 43.78 is a good spot, and that was what we looked at on Friday morning. I just don't know that we're going to retest that area. Right? I don't know that that area is going to get us a solid entry. So let's slide down to the 15-minute. Now, on a 15-minute chart, you have a couple of areas worth considering. The first one being here. The second one being right here. Now, when I look at those two levels, they're both in purple because they're both 15-minute charts. Remember, anytime we do a purple line, it's because it's a 15-minute chart. If we do a green line, it's a 60-minute or above time frame, which means purple lines are inherently going to be weaker. When I look at the 15, I see this first level. I see a really nice strong move away. I see a level that's not yet been tested, formed in the afternoon on a Friday. So my volume is there. I do have. We talked about the fact that the volume all came in at the end of the day, right near the close. So this would certainly be that rush to volume. Now, this area here looks to be a retest of this area here to the left. I don't like this area quite as much. I feel like there's a lot of overlap in there. So when I look, I would remove this one, and I would say that at 44.31 by 44.24, I think you've got an opportunity for a long. And remember, we're looking for a 2-to-1 reward to risk. So long as we don't base, there's a 1-to-1 reward to risk. And here is a 2-to-1 reward to risk. So as long as we don't base before coming into that level, then I think this could set up for a pretty good little area, pretty good opportunity for a little bounce out of that zone. Now, as far as supply goes above us, on our 4-hour, we actually are sitting in that daily supply. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us move off of that area. But if we break through the next area of supply, then I got to start looking further to the left to see what's our next supply area. And I think our next really clean supply area would be this wick over wick right here, 45.30 by 45.48. Now, we're going to be in an upward trend by the time we reach that level. We're actually in an upward trend now. So what's the only way that I can take this trade? What's the only way I can take this trade? Since it would be going against the trend. Confirmation. You can take a confirmation on there. Now, Liz, good point. I could also take a breakdown if we come up into here and start to base and then break down from there as well. Yes. But from a reversal standpoint, confirmation would be my top entry. Could go candle to candle if you get a reversal up there as well. Somebody asks, should the stop be set at 44.18? So looking at this area in here, if we're looking to see where would I place my stop, 44.18 definitely gives you the wide berth because you're below the wick of this green candle, and being below of this red candle, and being below the wick of this red candle is ideal. That gives you enough room in there. Now, I will say this: I'm actually okay if your stop is just below the wick of this candle right here, especially since we're in, a Sunday night trading session. I'm okay with a slightly more protective entry, with much, much tighter risk on this case. Now, that's on the ES itself, on the ES proper. If you wanted to trade that on the micro ES, we have been seeing a little bit of divergence between the ES and the micro ES as of late. And so in the micro ES, you're looking at 44.30, stop below 44. What's the low on this candle? Low on this candle is 44.23. So stop at 44.22, 44.20, something like that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's see. After micro ES, let's go take a look at the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ broke through frankly, what is a dang good area of supply. I mean, those are money, wick over wick, below a pivot high, and it just cut right through there like a knife through butter. Now, does this give us an entry anyway? Right? Do we have an entry here anyway? Should we have been stopped out of this position? Yes, Sadir, 4-hour uptrend. That's why confirmation. On this NASDAQ, should you have been stopped out on this position? The answer is probably no, as we cut right through it, and our uptrend told us it's got to be a confirmation entry. Remember, by the trade optimization plan, our top performing trades, you have to be trading with the trend, or it's going to switch to a confirmation entry. But it did cut through that supply pretty readily, pretty easily. 4-hour has gotten us above this one and above this one. We are not above this pivot in the S&P, but we are in the NASDAQ. And so slide into the 15 to look at the similar level that we have in the S&P. You'd be right here. I will tell you, this level here is actually also pretty good in the NASDAQ, which doesn't quite exist in the S&P. The S&P is a little bit more muddy through there. This gives you a nice little rally base, and then this move away with those couple of candles at a pretty good time of the day. So if that first level is a bit too, if that first level up there is a bit too hairy for you, you can hold off and wait for that second level and see if that second level is more to your liking. Now, if you only like hourly levels or above, then certainly your best area is to wait for this. Now, I would consider this a bit of a speed candle, and I would anticipate this whole level being retraced at some point. Okay. Now, looking at the volume on the NQ relative to the moves down. Remember, we do have to always look at our volume. We actually did a bit better in the NASDAQ volume relative to what it had done in the past on some of the bearish days. And so I do actually find that the NASDAQ could become our top market. So I think you could look for, those of you who are looking for individual stock opportunities, NASDAQ might start to give you some of those individual stock opportunities worth taking a look at. All right. So that's the S&P and the NASDAQ. Looking at the Russell, man, that rut just came flying up. Also above this pivot, and really closing in to get above this pivot in here. And so you've got a 15-minute supply area over there to the left. And that's really just this, just the actual, high, swing high right through here that we are approaching. But the only way you can take that is confirmation, because we are still in an uptrend, right? Still in a pretty strong uptrend. As far as 15-minute demand goes, we're closer on this one than we are to any of the other markets. It's not, I don't think, quite as clean. This area down here is okay, but this is the one I like better. Make sure I've got my drawing tool on. Wick over wick above a pivot low. Now that level, we came close to touching it. And so since we came close to touching it, it's got to convert to a confirmation entry. Someone's asking about the zone at 44.10. Let me go back into here. This area right here, was that Trent? Yeah, Trent, I didn't really love this zone down here at 44.10 because I'm wondering if this wick right here is a bit of a retest of this area through here. And it might be, and so I find it to be a little bit hairy. Oh, I answered your question already. Okay, just making sure. A child could be running away. The Russell could clearly be running away from the rest of the family. Matter of fact, let's take a quick look at the major market comparisons over the last month. So over the last month, the S&P is now back up to and up. It's up 1.97%. The Dow's up 1.22. The NASDAQ's up 2.22. The Russell's up 2.86. So what do we see here in terms of our inter-indices relationship, our inter-index relationship, right? My inter-index relationship is telling me that all is ready for continuation of the current trend. They all agree, and they agree in the right order. Russell, followed by NASDAQ, followed by S&P, followed by the Dow. That's the order that you want to see in order for price to have some sort of an ongoing continuation. And so if we think that that thing has some legs to it and some ongoing continuation, I do see the potential for us to reverse. The only two things that are giving me a moment to pause, the two things giving me a moment to pause on, just ready to say, okay, bullishness it is, are one, on the S&P, we are sitting in daily supply. All right? On the S&P, there is no doubt in my mind that we are sitting in daily supply. It's not great supply, but we are sitting in daily supply. Two is the volume. The fact that our volume on those, the fact that our volume on the last few up days is not as strong as it was on the down days is giving me a cause to pause. Doesn't mean I'm changing what I'm doing. I'm still going to trade the chart in front of me, and my small time frame tells me to be long. My daily charts, I'm still waiting for a higher swing low, and then it will tell me to be long. And my weekly charts have not told me yet to be long. Okay? All right. Okay. Next. So I think that the Russell actually could be a pretty good setup to continue its move. Everything above us, as far as supply goes, will have to be a confirmation entry at this point. Looking at the 15-minute, you do have that nice wick over wick, which has to be a confirmation entry. I will say, if you want to trade it tonight and we rally back up into here, you actually may get a little short if you want to trade it tonight and trade that pullback. I'm not against you trading the pullback either. Up into here if you want to trade this evening. So if you're looking for a trade this evening that I think you can pick up a few points on, this is a very small level, right? Your stop, you want your stop to be above this candle right here, right? Our stop goes above the highest wick of our leg in candle, which would be right here. And so, you know, but I think you can pick a few points up on that. So for on the ES, weekly ES, do I need a higher high at 4,600 to go long? Let me go double check. Now, by the way, some of you guys that are watching this on YouTube, because we're throwing it out on YouTube today, you're not seeing the chat box, I'm sure, that we have with our Zoom participants, but you guys have your own chat box, so feel free to type in the chat box if you guys have any questions. I've got both chat windows open. So let me slide back to the ES weekly chart. The number would be, yeah, above 4587. About 4587. So the high here is 4586. So I got to get above that 4587. So great question from CT4L. Can this market really move back up midterm? The Fed has removed some uncertainty, but inflation is still high. Russia's still in Ukraine. The curve is flattening. The chances of a recession are higher. This is an election year. What has really changed for the better? Nothing. And nothing has to change for the better. The charts tell me what to do. That's it. I don't really care. See, all of that stuff is important. All the stuff you just said is important. But the chart tells me what to do. And if the 4-hour chart is telling me that I should be a buyer, I'm going to be a buyer. And if the 4-hour chart says, hey, listen, you're a buyer, I'm a buyer as a day trader. I'm not a buyer yet as an investor. As an investor, frankly, you still ain't proved anything to me. And so that's what I'm looking for, is I'm looking for what the charts tell me, because the market never lies. The market can't. And so I will tell you, it's very easy. Yeah, it's very, and it's not your fault, by the way. Everybody, there's so much damn noise out there that it's hard to focus on just the charts. So that's the way I look at it. Thoughts? So a question in YouTube chat says, thoughts on the narrative with 5 a.m. surrender. I will tell you, I have not read anything about that as of yet, so I can't give you any thoughts on that narrative at all, because I don't know anything about it. Genuinely, I haven't. I really try not to look at news if I don't have to. There is very little news that I look at, because the charts tell me most of what I need. COVID part 3. I thought we're up to part 4 now, Ariel. I thought we were up to COVID part 46 or something. I don't know. All right. Last one. Let me go check the Dow Jones. So looking at the Dow Jones on our daily chart, we are above this swing high right through here. I don't have a higher low as of yet. I will say, if I was just a swing trader, I would really, really love to see a pullback to here as a best shot to get long, if I'm just swing trading. That is that's a level right there. That is a wick over wick above a pivot low with a reversal pattern coming off of a slowing momentum downtrend. As just a swing trader, that's a cool spot, right? Because our downtrend was losing steam, slowing momentum on the downtrend. We can see that in our indicator, right? No, I don't want to delete it. Load studies. We can see in our indicator that we had slightly higher lows, right? Slightly higher lows in our indicator, while having roughly the same lows in price. And we start to see a little bit of slowing of momentum of the downtrend. And I then have a move higher, a pullback into, remove all these studies, clear my chart up a bit. A pullback into this area is really my favorite kind of level. Chuck, look at that area on a 1 hour. Yeah, on a 1 hour, it's not as pretty, is it? On a 1 hour, it's clearly not as pretty because of the Fed announcement. Good point. Matter of fact, that should probably go away. Go away now. Liz says, no question of surrender, says Defiant Ukraine. Yeah, I like I said, I genuinely have not read any of the news. I haven't seen a lot of that. So great. So in the YouTube chat says, I think you have to account for the reflective process of the human participant and the market itself. Fear arising from the evidence, rejection of surrender will result in massive collateral by the morning. Market is based on reality, so I don't think the chart is all speculation. Its truest sense calls for anticipation. Short this bear rally. I think I agree with that sentiment, especially heading into the daily chart. But as a short-term trader, I follow the 4-hour trend. And so if I get stopped out on this area down here, great, no problem. I'm willing to be short. Right? That's the key. Is I'm not tied into being wrong. I'm not tied into being right. I'm tied into what the chart tells me to do. And so that's why, I looked at it a bit earlier, but I typed in earlier, my weekly trend is still down. My daily trend is a very weak uptrend because we had put in a higher high, but not yet a higher low. And then my 4-hour trend is up. And so that's where I'm ultimately looking. So. Justin's finger. Oh, Justin's poor finger. All right. So those are kind of my thoughts on the equity markets overall. I think that I'm willing to be a buyer on some of these small time frames on pullbacks. As far as bigger picture, I'm just not there yet. Let's move over to, let me share this grid. Now, for those of you that are not familiar, what I typically do is I will share out the grid in the chat window, and I'll put it in both chat windows as well. I share out my grid so that you can click on that, and then you can have the picture of the lines I looked at. If you have Thinkorswim, it actually will open up in your platform. If you don't have Thinkorswim, you at least can see the areas that I'm identifying, as you can just download the picture. And then that goes into our trade worksheet, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, how to access all of that material. All right. Let me slide now over to energies and metals. So looking at crude oil is up $2 so far this evening. Yeah, Steve. He has been quite busy with his proactive investor side of things. I mean, his group is doing. I mean, he's doing some great things for a lot of his people. I love Justin. Let's see. 4-hour chart, crude oil double bottom was put in right through here. I mean, this is a very, very clean, winner chicken dinner double bottom look. Continuing to move up. And so looking at this, moving to the 1-hour time period, I see that we have a pretty decent, this supply area is just okay. We're retesting this area in here. We do have a little bit of supply here, and we're sitting at a prior old support, acts as new resistance, fair price value area level. So I'm actually okay. I'd really like to see us pull back a little bit this evening into, say, this region right here. I think this region right here, this 103.85, is a really good place to kind of hang out. I think that's a really nice area of demand on that small time frame. So let's see. Question on the YouTube chat. What is your position equity of account per trade and stop loss, risk reward? Great question. For those of you that are not familiar to me with what I look at, a lot of times you're going to hear people talk about a minimum 3-to-1 reward to risk, or 5-to-1, or 20-to-1. We're okay with a 2-to-1 reward to risk. I think a 2-to-1 reward to risk as a small time frame trader is going to increase your overall winning percentage. And 2-to-1 is ultimately what I'm looking for now. As far as the amount you're willing to lose per trade, That's completely up to you. And I'd love to give you a hard and fast rule. There's a lot of people that say, well, there's a 2% account rule, right? You never risk more than 2%. If you have a $100,000 account and you're day trading and you're super risk averse, losing $2,000 might scare you. If you've got a $1 million account, losing 20 grand might scare you. But if you've got a $5,000 account, you probably have to risk more than 2%. And so there's no real set number that I prescribe to. I think 2% is a great place to start, but I think it's important for you to understand your individual situation and your individual risk tolerances. That's the way I look at it. So, and I appreciate the compliment on our live structure. So, let's see. Ariel, Chuck, should we stay on the CL back ratio you suggested some weeks ago, 92-117? Do you see CL going up? Based on our big picture, right? Based on our big picture, I think there's a good chance that this could still continue to rally. Remember, we looked at that 92-117 as on a back ratio spread, saying, okay, if it continues to rally higher, or if it crashes. The question is, if it crashes, I think that was still for a little bit of a credit, if I'm not mistaken. And so if we do continue to come down, it's still probably okay. The downside of that is what the volatility is going to do. The volatility was low enough back then that it was still all right. I think if it continues to crash, you'll see an increase in volatility, which will actually help the position. Yeah, it's below 95, and so we're not there as of yet. I think we have a better chance of continuing to rally up from here overall. And we're basing inside this pretty good level. I mean, this is prior old support, oftentimes acts as new resistance. Certainly that's not enough to bend it off of. But if we get quality basing, you get a breakout. I'd much rather see a pullback to this 103.85 by 103.50. I think that's a really nice clean entry. But the problem is that's really the opening, that's really the second candle we have today. So I'm not sure that we're going to get a great move into there. So yeah, above 190, you're killing it in crude oil. But the idea on that trade, right, is that's either a home run if it goes way up, or you make some money if it goes way down, but you lose if it goes nowhere. Right? That's the downside of that trade. You lose if it goes nowhere, unless you get an increase in volatility, right? The volatility increase is going to help you a lot on that. So I like that 15-minute level. If I look at the supply area up above me on a 4-hour chart, I don't really have any great 4-hour supply until here. So I think if you get a breakout, I think it's realistic to believe we can trade up to 108 if we get above this area here. And I'm okay with being long through there. If you want to already be long, I think you're maybe a little premature to already be long because we didn't get quality basing right through here. So I would rather wait for the pullback. All right, gold. So looking at gold. Our 4-hour chart of gold, we had a confirmation long right through here. What's our 4-hour trend kind of giving us? Is it a super definitive 4-hour trend? Right? I mean, we've got a downtrend through here. We tried to rally up, unable to put in a new high. Came to essentially a really good wick over wick on the 4-hour, but not quite enough to get us into the 1-hour level. So go into that smaller time frame for a potential entry. I'm going to remove this one because we came too close to it, didn't get in. We're sitting on this confirmation level, but we're not deep enough into it to get a trade, and we're basing in front of the level. So what is the very definition? What is the definition of basing in front of the level? It's the kiss of death, right? Our KO, it's a KOD, kiss of death. If we're basing in front of the level, it's probably not going to be a good level. At this point, I'm going to remove that one. Move into a 15-minute, smaller time frame. I think a breakdown is a potential. Looking at that smaller time frame, I like this up here. I do, because of all this noise over here to the left. That tells me that there was a fair amount of interest at that price level. We came close to it without getting in, so it needs to be a purple candle because it's purple lines because it's 15 minutes, and then confirmation entry, so dashed lines. And so 1932 by this area, 1933. Now, technically, you'd want your stop above the highest wick of the leg-in candle, so all the way up here. But that does set up for price to continue to fall. Now, from a breakdown perspective, could we get just a plain breakout trade below these Globex lows? I think you could. I think you could certainly trade below these lows this evening. You've got one touch. This wick over wick area here kind of gives you two touches in that area. And so it's not a super clean breakdown, but I think you could take a breakdown, especially on a smaller time frame. All right. Oh, Nat Gas. Now, this one, I like the setup here. And the setup that I like here is we've got a beautiful magnet of a supply area up here, right? Look at that zone. Wick over wick, below a pivot high on our 1 hour chart. Now, we are in the context of 4 hour higher swing high, higher swing low. And so that 1 hour, I think, could act as a price magnet, especially considering the fact that we are rallying through here. And if we get basing right at this level, I'm okay taking a long. Like, I like this for a potential upside breakout and let that run in the U.S. overnight trading session. I'm starting to make friends. I'm starting to make friends again with Nat Gas on a Sunday night. I'm not sure about the gap and go, but I'm making friends with Nat Gas on a Sunday night, Liz. Where, you know, he bought me a bottle of wine. We discussed things. We hashed it out. And I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. The big joke is, for those of you guys that are not regulars, we look at Nat Gas all the time. And there was probably, 6 or 8 months where you couldn't miss a Nat Gas trade. It was like printing money. And then all of a sudden somebody said, hey, wait a minute, this is too easy. And then it stopped doing that for a few weeks and really, really made it bad. So, all right. Copper. Ugh. So there's so many other things out there that I just don't. What do I hate about copper? What I hate about copper right now is all of this, all those upper wicks that we're coming into tell me that real supply is above all of those long fingers that are pointing up, right? We talk about Justin's finger a little bit. That, I think, is a picture of Justin's finger. It's just that we have more supply up above us, and those fingers are pointing up at supply. And in my mind, they're pointing right here to that wick over wick supply right there. And that's a whole round number area. Okay, so I think that's the area that's, but that's pretty far away. We're not getting anywhere near there at this point. And I don't have a good breakout trade. I don't really have strong reversals. So on the very small time frame, not interested. Not interested. All right. Questions on these markets before I share the grid? Any questions on these markets before I share this screenshot? Put this in the chat box. Oh, no. Sorry, John. All right. I'll put the grids in both of these chat boxes. All right. Now, we have not been looking at ags as of late. And the reason we've not been looking at ags as of late is, first of all, they got very, very sideways on us, right? They got very sideways on us, and they got very sideways on us after wheat being so dangerous with all of its closed markets. So now, not going to really spend a lot of time here on these ags. Looking at this, does anybody really want to trade these? I mean, it does not take long to see this. And is there money to be made on the very small time frames? If you get into like the 15-minute chart, the 5-minute chart. There might be some money to be made in between, but I feel like it's just, I mean, there's just so many other better places to put your money right now. So while I like to, give thoughts and ideas and things that I think make sense, I'm actually going to share the grid with my boxes on there so that people realize what I'm talking about. Edit this. Put it in orange. There we go. There we go. Oh, I got to do it to all of them. Crud. All right. Till we get out of those boxes, I don't really like that. Yeah, wait for price to break out and then see where it goes from there. There's a lot to be said for that, and right now I just don't see it. There's not a lot there. Sam, I haven't talked to Sam in a while. He called me a couple of weeks ago. All right, so there's this grid. All right, let's go look at our bonds and currencies. And then I know a couple of you have asked about some individual stocks. I told you I would look at some individual stocks if you want at the end of the session. I typically go an hour in these sessions. We're going to go a little bit over today, if everybody's okay with that. Hopefully you are, because I'm talking a lot. Oh, look at that ZN. That's just garbage. So when I look at this ZN, I've got a really nice strong downward trend on the hourly chart. But what has happened to my downtrend? Right? My downtrend has really lost its steam. It's really lost its momentum. We have come down to, is this a daily demand? Okay. So we've come all the way down to this daily area of demand, but what's our motion coming out of this demand? Meh, at best, right? I think we may pop up from here. And if we pop up from here, then I think that just takes you up to your better hourly supply. So I don't think that this demand here is obviously a good trade opportunity. I am going to remove these 15-minute supply areas. First of all, the first one we're basing in front of the level. That's making it a kiss of death. The second one is not as clean as the hourly levels above. Now, these hourly levels above, if I look at this on a daily chart again, this would be a pretty good little pullback, right? That's probably a 23.6 retracement. And not only is it a 23.6 retracement, but old support right through here. Old support can oftentimes act as new resistance, and I would be pretty close if I'm thinking that that's a 23.6 retracement on the daily. Let's take a quick measurement here. I'll just put it in black, nice and thick. Throw 38.2 on there just for giggles. It's actually, yeah, it's right between the 23.6 and the 30. So it's right at closer actually to 38.2. So you've got algorithmic traders looking at these levels in between the 23.6 and the 38.2. You've got old support acting as new resistance, and I've got hourly supply up above me. Confirmation entry here, limit entry here. So I like those levels. I really do. Is there a long to make up to there? If you have a clear constitution about yourself and you're okay trading against the bigger picture trend, I think there is some money to be made on a short-term long from here up to this area. All right. That's the 10-year. 30-year. Repiten, por favor. We're same thing all over again on the 30-year. Same picture, same everything that we're looking at. All the stuff below me is not as of any dire importance, but these areas above, I think, are the best levels up above in that 30 years. So not a whole lot to really hammer on there. All right, the euro. So our euro level on that we had last week worked like a freaking charm. The 15-minute area of supply price hit that level, got a really nice move away, came back to demand and rallied up off of demand. So it nicely moved from the area of supply down to the area of demand. And so now I'm going to remove both of those levels. On a 4-hour chart, my overall trend direction. What is this trend direction? Well, I mean, it's uppish. That's the way I would call it, is uppish. I'd call it like a +1. It's mildly bullish. But it's certainly not convincing that we are in a runaway trading opportunity, right? So with that being said, it's mildly bullish with a really nice supply area right here. Really nice supply area. But because we're mildly bullish, that really nice supply area has to be a confirmation entry. Now, as far as demand levels below me, does anybody see anything down here they really like? Anybody? Bueller. Yeah, me either. Right? I just don't see anything down here that excites me as a place where I'm going to jump up and down in order to go long. I don't see it. So, but I do think I think this is a good supply area up above, but it's got to be a confirmation entry because our bigger picture 4-hour trend is to the upside. All right. And then the Canadian dollar. So looking at the Canadian dollar, we're in an uptrend, but what's happening to our uptrend? I don't need an indicator to tell me this. What's happening to my uptrend? All right. Imagine that there is a baseball, and that baseball is flying into the air. All right. You've got your baseball. You throw your baseball up into the air, and as that thing goes up, it's losing a bit of momentum on the way up until eventually it slows itself down, and then it tends to go back the other way. Now, I'm not saying that that's clearly what's going to happen here in the Canadian dollar, but there's no doubt that we had strong momentum here, and we're losing a bit of momentum through here. So with that slow loss of momentum, it's also on a daily chart, just right? A very difficult trading environment. On a 4-hour chart, our uptrend is continuing, but we'd need to get a pullback into a quality demand area. I would be very hesitant to use this level. If we get below this swing low right here, then this demand is going to become a confirmation entry. Okay, that has to become a confirmation entry because we would be lower than the prior swing low, and then that would give us a lower swing low and a lower swing high. So that have to be a confirmation entry at that point. Other than that, I just don't see a lot to do here. All right, let me share this grid out so everybody has it. By the way, if you guys are watching on I know some of you are watching on YouTube. Some of you guys that are new aren't really typing in the chat box. If you've got questions, please type them in the chat box. I'm here to answer whatever I can. And if you want to use the microphone, please let me know. You are more than welcome to. So we are big fans of people actually, raising their voices up around here. Okay. Last one. Let's take a look at these at our other currency markets: the New Zealand dollar, the Great British Pound, Japanese yen, and the Aussie. And then I'll look at some individual stocks if you guys have a couple that you want me to take a look at. On the New Zealand dollar, so those of you that trade the New Zealand dollar, 4-hour chart, We did get above the prior swing high. So we got above this swing high. We've not yet gotten above this one, closing in on it. So I want to pay attention to there. But our 4-hour chart, we got above the prior swing highs. I have higher swing lows, telling me it's okay to be a buyer. Once again, coming into this area of supply, but based a bit in front of it. And so on, when we get to pullbacks, this pullback is okay, but this, in my mind, is a retest of this wick over wick area here to the left. And so this is another one of those fingers that are pointing down to actual demand, which I think is this area here, which shows up on a 15-minute chart much more cleanly. Rally, a little bit of a base, very nice strong move away, right? Our angle of the move away is good. It's a level that's not yet been tested in a small time frame. Now, if you're more aggressive and you want to give this one a shot, where we started trading this evening, just a little bit ago, the origin of this recent move up, I actually think if you're the most aggressive, you'd look right here. That would be the place to look. Okay. So if you're more aggressive, you're going to look into this area right here. I think this is a really clean area and a much better level up there. Great British Pound. So looking at the pound on our 4-hour time period. So our 4-hour time period on the pound, what price patterns anybody see here? What price pattern do you see us potentially forming? Yeah, I see an inverted head and shoulders potentially forming, right? Here's our neckline, so I need to be attention to that of that area. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add wrong drawing tool. Potential breakout trade above here. If we get what? What's the most important thing that we need still in order to make this make sense? I need quality basing, and that quality basing has to occur right in this area, right? It's got to be tight candlesticks very close to my breakout line. We have to get quality basing before the level, or this is not going to work out. It's got to have basing before the level. But I like that for a potential breakout. Stop obviously goes below the most recent pivot. Japanese yen, the breakdown we talked about last week. Here, you then got a retest opportunity. I think you've got another breakdown brewing. Where do I go long? The answer is I don't. When I look at this thing, I've got to go way the hay back. To find demand lower than where we are. I mean, we're now going back to daily demand doesn't come into play until here. Now, clearly this is, different contract values and everything since then. But my point is that I think on the hourly chart, when I look at that on an hourly, that means I've got room to drop all the way down into here. And I think that's plenty of room to roam there. If we get a bounce back up and you get a bit of a retest, then on the hourly level, I think you've got a pretty clean supply area right there. Already been touched by this candlestick right there, so it needs to be a confirmation entry. All right, and then the Aussie, we are sitting right at a potential breakout point here. We've got two highs. Looking at the daily chart, you've got room to run up to the next supply area. So I'm okay actually on a breakout trade on the Aussie above our current price. I think we're actually basing here right in front of the level, meaning that this supply is probably not going to hold, and I think that we're going to get a breakout above this region here. All right, let me share this one out so that y'all have this grid. Put it in the chat windows, all of them. and save them to the trade updates. All right. Now, a couple of people had asked about some individual stocks. So one of the stocks that somebody had asked about, Corey, I don't know if Corey, are you still on? Corey asked about CTRN in the YouTube chat. So let me check CTRN just in case he comes back and asks. City Trends. So I don't know anything about this stock. So let's start with that. I'm going to start with that as the very beginning. But when I look at this, my question that I always ask people is when they want to look at an individual stock, what's your time frame? Do you want to be a trader, right? Do you want to be an investor? Do you want to be a swing trader? Do you want to be a position trader? As an investor, as a longer term investor, I see a stock that's in a pronounced downtrend, and there has to be some reason that it's in a pronounced downtrend. I don't know anything about the stock, nor do I need to really know all that much. I will say that we are sitting just ahead of what could be a pretty good area of demand on a weekly chart. When I look at this on the daily, and I go back more in time, you are sitting, there's what that weekly supply or weekly demand looked like. Zooming in on this, I don't see a super strong move away. I will say that your downside momentum is waning, and I think as a swing trader, I'd actually be okay with you getting, looking, at this area here as your next entry for a short. Right? That's the one that really makes the most sense as the next entry for a short. But is there room to make money on the way up to there? Well, moving to the 1 hour, on the way up to there, sure, there's room to make money. You can take a breakout trade somewhere above that region. It was up 6%, it looks like, on Friday. So after a very strong move up, if you're a very small time frame trader, you can get in here, right? So, not knowing, and I don't know that Corey is still watching because he didn't type in the YouTube chat again. But I don't, as an investor, no chance. As a swing trader, I'd like to rather get short when we rally up to that supply area. As a day trader, I think you've got an opportunity to get long on a pullback to the 1 hour demand right there. So those are the three outlooks, right? Investor, day trader, and swing trader. Those are the three different outlooks that I would look at this particular stock. Now, I certainly would do a little bit more research than this if I'm going to be an investor because I want to know what the heck they do. And I know nothing. I've never even heard of this stock. So are they optionable would be my next question. And if they are optionable, what's their options liquidity look like? Because that to me is the next big question is if I've got crappy options liquidity, then it makes it a lot harder. So let's just go to the 61-day options. And my spread's not too bad. I mean, it's not too good, but oh, there you are, Corey. Good to see you back. Hopefully that answers. I don't know what your time frame is, and so I really can't give you a great answer. Swing trader, okay. So as a swing trader, I do like the short on the rally back up. I will say the options are not really enticing. If you're an options trader, the problem with the options are that I've got a $3 spread when I go out to August on the calls. I've got a $2 spread when I go out to August on the puts. And kind of my rule as an options trader is I want no more than the spread to be greater than 10% of the premium. If my spread is greater than 10% of the premium, then to me, it's probably not got enough liquidity to make the trade. And so it's optionable, but the options are with the limited liquidity makes it very difficult. So I've done no fundamental analysis of the stock, but as a swing trader, I would not trade the options because the options are not, they're not really giving me the best picture. I like the short up here at 45.06 by 47.08 for price to continue to fall just following the big picture trend. So, and Corey, thank you for asking about it. I appreciate you typing in the chat box on and joining us tonight. Paul says TNL. Travel plus leisure equals fun. Paul, what time frame on TNL? Okay. Well, I mean, it's hard to ignore this, right? This is a really nice area for a potential pullback. But I don't know that when you're in a range like this, sometimes really nice areas just don't work, right? Like this was a really nice gap fill area that just didn't work. This was a really nice demand area that just didn't work. And so sometimes when you're in a range like this, the really good levels just don't work. And so I don't love this. Now, from a directional standpoint, if I were looking at this, I would say that there's probably better areas to look. I have not looked at the options, but I do know how much Liz loves iron condors, especially in gold. That will definitely move the market, no doubt about it. So, all right. Any other individual stocks that y'all want to take a quick look at? Any other individual stocks that you all want to look at? Feel free to type them in the chat box, either on YouTube or here in Zoom. I want to make sure that I get as many of them as I can. One that I've been watching for a while is Roku. We've been looking at Roku for quite a while. I was a little bit surprised that we actually broke through this supply area, but we're coming up to another one up in here that I think is a slightly better short opportunity. The market's overall movement brought us up, but I really like this. We've been talking about being short Roku for a long time, and a rally back up into here with coming back down here, I think is good.
Chuck.
Oh, hi, Liz.
Hi. Take a look at where you are on the monthly on Roku, and then you might realize why you broke through that. I know you don't normally look at the monthly.
Yeah, I don't. Monthly is definitely not one that I normally take a
okay.
Look
well,
at.
That might explain it.
Got it. Yeah,
You've
no,
come
I can
into
see
a
that,
trap.
and certainly, and certainly, this is a. Somebody's asking on YouTube if I'm real or fake. I promise you, I'm a human being. I'm a real human being with no hair. So, I do see that, and then these lower wicks also tell me that there could be some momentum that occurs. So yeah, I certainly see that as well. Oh, good point on that. I may have to rethink my next supply area. Let's see, swing trade on shop. Oh, dang it. It's really hard. It's really hard to ignore that freaking gap fill area. Right? I mean, that's a tough level to really ignore. I like that level. 843.02, 8x900. You got whole round number resistance. Our big picture is definitely still in a downtrend. Now, what sucks though is that we're coming off of a price shock to the upside, right? And those price shocks to the upside oftentimes are going to make you go, hey, we're about to come back up. So you might want to do this more as a candle to candle style. But we know that this is going to have pretty decent options opportunities as well. But boy, do I like that. Roberto, look at the TLT October 21 call ratio back spread. All right, so Roberto, I'm going to start with and feel free to unmute yourself on the mic. What's making you feel like call ratio is the way to go? Is it this area down in here?
Yeah, Chuck, it's that and very strong buying pressure. It kind of looks like it's, if you go to a daily, it looks like it's setting up for the start of a reversal. And then,
Okay.
with the callback ratio, if we're wrong, we have some protection.
Yeah.
But I think there's an opportunity or let me put it to you like this. You make good coin if it gets to 135 or 140 on the
Right.
callback ratio. So you don't even need it to explode out of that area. You just really need
So
it to
have you?
make
But
it
have
to
you
the next.
analyzed it with volatility dropping by 5%?
I actually have not analyzed it adjusting
So
for
that's the only caveat that I would put to that setup, right? So if I analyze that trade, and we're getting a little deeper on here for some of you that don't trade options, but you'll learn something. It's a cool setup. So the 120 by 134, you doing 1 by 2?
Yep.
Okay, so that gives you a 205 debit. I'm sorry, I did the other way around, didn't I?
Yeah, it should be a credit.
Yeah, I did it the other way around. All right, so it gives you a 205 credit, and your risk profile looks like this. So that has to make that move in just a couple of. So you're looking for a smaller time, like a move in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Okay, so let's give it 3 weeks worth of time, and so let's do a day step for 3 weeks. So in that case, our break even on that date would be 135 and 114. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change one thing, and I'm going to adjust my volatility. Because what you've got to anticipate is if we rally up, our volatility may continue to fall off, right? Our volatility has fallen from 24 down to 20. So let's look and see what happens if it drops down to 15.
Yep. Yeah, I'll take a look as well.
I always look at that. So a volatility adjustment of down 5%. Now, we may not do that, but I think it's just something to consider. A 5% drop in volatility now takes your break even all the way out to 143. So I think it's still a good setup, but your break even slide to 143. Now, your break even on the downside actually goes to 115, so it actually goes up a little bit. So 3 weeks. But I mean, that's still only up here, right? It's not super high.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that could be a pretty good play. And if you're wrong, it's a couple $100.
Exactly.
And if you're right, and we blow back up, if something happens, and we say, okay, let's do something with interest rates, and we blow back up, you have until October, and the thing makes a hell of a lot of money. Your reward to risk is very strong. So
exactly, that's what I was looking at as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I know there's a couple of you on here. I know, John. I'm just about to wrap up. A couple of you on here that are brand new, and you're watching for the first time. I do want to do really quickly. You guys that are here for the free preview week, we want you to ask a ton of questions and feel like you're part of the team. We really do. It's important to us. And so I want to show you real quick how to navigate the website. So first thing is first. If you need any help, any support, the number to text us is right up here, 973-348-5022. Believe it or not, we actually answer when you send us a text. And so that's how you get a hold of us. If you've got any questions, shoot us a text. If you're interested, we're going to be in Southern California, May 7th, 16th, and 17th. Come to the Trader Summit. It's going to be some kick-ass people there. When you are in, the places that you're going to want to go is where it says student resources. You guys have what's called a community lobby, a pro member. You have access to the pro member community lobby, which also includes all of the on-demand trading courses, as well as the live rooms and the archive of the live rooms. So if you're watching this, you can watch the archive of the live rooms. Now, I will say this. When you do log in, one of the things that I would say is that if you need help, please send us a text. Allow us to kind of walk you through the backside of the site to kind of get through everything. But the thing I think is most important to pay attention to is what is the things that you're going to use. So really quickly, I just logged in. If you go to the community lobby, here's where you attend the live trading sessions. Here's where you go and you get all the trade worksheets that I filled out earlier today. So you've got all the trade worksheets as we put those in there, the calendar for all the sessions, the archived rooms for we have multiple classes, whether it's the live trading room, the options deconstructed, the wealth essentials program, daily market commentaries in here, a member chat room that you can access. And we've never really on a free preview week given people access to our on-demand trading content. But for those of you that want to learn more about just anything with trading, these are, I think, fairly well laid out courses that you can go in, watch. I don't expect you to watch all of them. There's quite literally hundreds of hours of content in here. Everything on wealth essentials from bonds, annuities, options for investors, selling cash secured puts, options foundations. What is an option anyway if you're brand new? Bull call spread, bear call spread, bull put, diagonal bull calls, breakout for free strategies. All the different stuff is in here. So please feel free to use it. Ask any questions. So we're here to help. But that's all I have for tonight, everybody. I appreciate you jumping on with us this evening. If you guys have any questions, we will be back tomorrow. Just kind of showing you the calendar real quick. Tomorrow is a is a futures trading room. So Herman Casas will be doing our futures trade room tomorrow. And so you guys can jump in the futures trade room. And then we also have a stock and options room at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So please feel free to join us. We'd love to have you. So, all right, everybody, that's all I got. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for your time. I'll talk to you soon. John, you're the man. All right, buddy. Happy birthday, buddy. See ya.